Hello there, my lovelies. This is Brady, and this week, I'm coming at you on my birthday. So, hey, happy birthday to me. Really what I want for my birthday is I want to make sure that you like this video, that you subscribe, that you comment. It's not much to ask, right? Just like 5 minutes of your time, and then, hey, if you make a habit out of it, that'll happen too. But seriously, I appreciate all of your guys' support. I love doing this every week, and I have some exciting stuff to get to this week, so let's talk about it. Reviews versus the wild. Alright, so I know that I just said that I'm going to get into some exciting stuff, but we have to get something out of the way, and that is my wife and I watched Thunder Force on Netflix. So, Thunder Force is a movie starring Melissa McCarthy, who, I generally like, and Octavia Spencer, who I generally love. And they're in kind of a superhero parody, so you think that this would be my jam. And then you find out that, the love interest of the show is Jason Bateman playing a supervillain whose arms are lobster arms. That's pretty neat, right? Right. Okay, Thunder Force is pretty bad. And, the thing that irritates me the most, and I almost didn't even want to talk about it just because I disliked it that much, but the thing that irritates me the most is, as somebody who's been a bigger guy, all my life, I'm just a big guy. I mean, I've lost a lot of weight, and so, but I just go back and I think about when I was a bigger guy, the stereotypes in media that would drive me up the wall. And one of them is the I'm stupid stereotype. And then another one is the I'm big and I'm shy and I'm actually very smart, but I don't have confidence in what I look like. These two stereotypes I hate. Because here's the thing. Fat people are just people. We're just the same as everybody else. We aren't stupider than anybody just because we're larger. We don't have huge issues with self-esteem. I mean, yeah, everyone kind of does. But, man, Thunder Force is just really bad with this. And the thing is, Melissa McCarthy plays this I'm big and dumb stereotype way too often. And when she does, it just comes off badly. Especially since she always does it in characters that are brash and dumb. That are big and brash and dumb. And I hate that. And you get that here. Now, I will say, Jason Bateman, loved him in it. He was the redeeming factor of this show, but the leads, I was really bugged by it. I can't recommend this show. I just can't. Now, for a Netflix show that I actually can recommend, and I can recommend wholeheartedly, I watched season 4 of Castlevania on Netflix. And here's what I'll say. Just outright, I have watch pretty much every video game adaptation that there is out there, and for the most part, they are dreadful. You will remember my not so great thoughts on the new Mortal Kombat movie, for example. But Netflix's Castlevania show is the best video game adaptation out there, just bar none. The animation is fantastic. The characters themselves are well developed. They're fun. It's a show that I really personally enjoy. I love getting into it and just seeing where things go. And now season 3 was bad. It was pretty bad. Season 2 had just such amazing highs, and so you could tell that the producers, the writers, didn't really know how to follow that up. And so with that, you get a little bit of disappointment. But what I will say is that at the end of the day, they stick the landing. Season 4 ends in a way that's meaningful, that really brings a good conclusion to all of the characters, and really makes you kind of fall in love with all these characters all over again. It's bombastic. The animation is fantastic. It's top-notch. The action animation, so good. Now, I will say, this is so violent, so bloody. Don't let any kids anywhere near it. But if you're an adult like me who grew up playing Castlevania, you've already watched this show. And if you've given up halfway through Season 3 like I did, go finish Season 3, get through that slog, and get to Season 4, because Season 4 is fantastic. Alright, so just a very quick mention, because I know that I've been talking about this series a lot, because, it's been what I've been reading, and that is Crooked Kingdom, which is the sequel to Six of Crows, part of the Grishaverse. I talked in length last week all about Shadow and Bone, the TV show, how much I enjoyed that, and how really the reason why I enjoyed it as much as I did is because of its focus on characters from Six of Crows. So I was very anxious to see how the Six of Crows duology finished, and Crooked Kingdom did not disappoint. Now, what I will say is that Leigh Bardugo did such an awesome job crafting this story. I love the characters. I love the twists and turns of the heists. I really enjoy all of that. But you have to look at Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom together. You can't consider them to be separate novels, because Leigh Bardugo did not end Six of Crows at the right time. As you're reading it, you go, okay, well, this would be a good point to end Six of Crows, and he keeps on going, and then he kind of stops awkwardly. And then you get 100 pages into Crooked Kingdom and be like, okay, this is where a good spot for this book would have been to begin. But he didn't. He started earlier than that. And so the pacing was a little bit off in that way, just when you consider the books as separate. But together, I can't recommend these books highly enough. I've really, really enjoyed them. All right, now another quick shout out that I need to make is actually to this guy right here. That's right. So it's to Fallout, and specifically Fallout 4. So Fallout 4 is a game that I started briefly on the PC. I enjoyed what I played of it, but at the same time, I was really caught up in a lot of what reviewers were talking about at the time, and a lot of what the discussion around the game was, where this isn't New Vegas. And it takes such huge steps back as far as, character freedom and choices, and really being able to role play as your character in this role-playing game. And so, because of that, I never really got much into it. But, I was looking at my Xbox Series X, looking at Game Pass, thinking, okay, what's the next game I should download? And then I'm like, I love Fallout so much. But I never really gave Fallout 4 a good chance. And here it is now with that 120 FPS boost. So I thought, yeah, I'll try it. And I'm very much enjoying it. I think that having a good break from the Fallout universe for the last few years, and then going back into Fallout 4 has actually been very good for the experience for me. It's been fun just seeing all these characters, seeing the dialogue choices. Yes, it's not as in-depth as New Vegas. It's not as good as New Vegas. But it's still a darn good game, and I really enjoy it. So, especially if you have an Xbox Series X, go and get it with Game Pass and try that out, the FPS boost, because it does look fantastic. It feels fantastic to play, and it's a good game. Definitely go check Fallout 4 out. Check out Fallout 4. Out. Fallout 4. Check out. So another game that I've been playing, since Murder by Numbers really got me into that Picross mood. And I always love me some Picross. Like I said, it's my favorite sort of logic math puzzle. And so, I was feeling like I need something else. I need Picross, but what I really need, I need Picross 3D. Because Picross on its own is awesome. Picross 3D is something that's similar, but it's just different enough that I need that. But unfortunately, Nintendo hasn't released a Picross 3D game on the Switch. And there's no way that I was going to pull out my 3DS, so I went online, went to some forums, and I found out that, oh, well, this is basically Picross 3D. It's this little game on the Switch called Voxelgrams. And so I'm like, okay, I'll check it out. And it's scratching that itch. So for those who don't know, because I realized that last week I didn't really explain what Picross is. Basically, what you're doing is you are marking certain squares and then basically removing certain squares in order to make a picture. That's what basic Picross is. So Picross 3D or Voxelgrams, what you're doing is you have a 3D object that you're creating, and it will show you a number. And so it'll be like 5. All right, and let's say that you have 6 blocks. So you know that 5 of those are going to be marked. So you can go, okay, well, at least, these 4 middle boxes, whether it's 5 on this side or 5 on this side, these 4 middle boxes will be part of it. And so you mark those, and then you follow the other clues to really uncover this sculpture. And it's very satisfying. And once you get into Picross and you understand kind of the machinations of how it works, you're able to get through a lot of these puzzles a lot faster, and it's so satisfying. You know what's not satisfying, though? It's Voxelgram's controls. They kind of suck. Especially if you try to use the touch controls. Because that's, of course, playing Picross 3D on the 3DS, that's what you would do. You would use the touch controls. And it worked wonderfully. And so, I have the Switch here in my hands. I want to do Picross 3D like I used to do it. So, just using my finger. But the problem is, it doesn't recognize all the touches. And sometimes it will get stuck in this mode where it's thinking, okay, now are you wanting to mark this or delete this? How about both? And it doesn't really make much sense. And it gets very, very irritating. Now, it is a little bit more easy to handle if you're just using button controls and, the control stick. But that's not ideal for Picross. And so that's a little bit disappointing. But until Nintendo releases a Picross 3D game on the Switch, I gotta take what I can get. And Voxelgrams is a good option for that. I recommend checking it out. And finally, for the first time on these Geeky Weekly Wrap Ups, I get to talk about one of my, if not my absolute favorite author, Brandon Sanderson. And I also get to talk about something that I know that a few of you have wanted me to check out, graphic novels. And, I didn't grow up as a comics guy. Usually when I read, it's by audiobook because I want to be doing other things while I'm reading. I want to, listen while I drive. Because I feel like holding a book and, just reading it quietly to yourself, it doesn't really fit into my lifestyle right now with my family. And when I'm reading a book physically, it feels like I'm shutting them out, and I don't like that feeling. And I know that that's not really the case at all, but it's how it feels to me. And so, graphic novels are not anything that I would normally get into. However, you have Brandon Sanderson release one. Yeah, I'm gonna buy it. So I did. And it's the dark one. And it's good. It is very good. It's very clever. It takes a lot of good tropes and turns them on their head, which is something that Sanderson is great at in general. Now, I will say that Sanderson he wrote the story, but he didn't necessarily write the dialogue. Obviously he didn't do the art, but the people who did do the art did a fantastic job because this looks fantastic. Now, of course, I'm not a connoisseur of the comics arts, but what I am is someone who can see something and go, that looks good. And every page looks great. So, just to get into a little bit about what the story is, the story is there's basically this parallel world to Earth called Mirandus. And on Mirandus, they are a society that's very much based on the Chronicle, which is more or less these prophecies. And the prophecies always have the dark one and the dark side, and they have the light one, the light side, the hero who will come and vanquish them. And the entire society is very focused on those prophecies. It's every sentence that comes out of their mouth has to do with those prophecies. And the interesting thing is, the hero and the Dark One are supposed to come from our Earth. And so this story follows Paul, who is the prophesied Dark One. But he didn't really, he doesn't really know what's going on. He's just this guy in his late teens. His mom is a defense attorney and defends, some of serial killers, really. And, she has this mentality that she's passed along to Paul of making sure that nobody feels unloved, even those that might be horrible in the view of society. They shouldn't feel unloved. And so, Paul takes that to heart. And, Paul has he has these dark impulses in him, but he tries very hard to never follow up on anything. And, he tries to be a good person. But then he's thrown into the world of Mirandus. And, of course, there he's the Dark One. And what this graphic novel does so well is exploring just why this villain is the way that he is. Because, you see things from his point of view. And, of course, you realize that, that light side, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There's some messed up things over there. And maybe not everything on the dark side is completely evil. And so, the way that this graphic novel plays on these is very interesting. It's something that really caught my attention, and it's done extremely well. Now, one thing that it doesn't get quite as well, and maybe this is just, inherent in the graphic novel genre, but I didn't feel like I got enough information. Usually Sanderson is very overt in his world building. He'll throw a lot at you, but he'll throw it at you in ways that will really make sense. And here at the end of Volume 1 of The Dark One, I don't feel like I quite understand a lot of things about this universe. And that's not usually how I feel when I read a Sanderson. So, that has felt a little bit off. But, maybe that's just because we don't have the prose, we don't have all of that. We get the visualization instead. And that's just the trade-off that you have. And while I love the visuals, I love the art, I wish that I'd gotten a little bit more. And, on that regard, this is just Volume 1. I'm sure that when Volume 2 is released, that it will go into some other stuff about the characters and about the world that will make it really, really good. And then I'll look back and I'll go, oh, those complaints that I had, that's really nothing. And, speaking of that, just in general, the way that this ends, whew, it's a cliffhanger. It's a cliffhanger. So, Sanderson, as soon as Dark One Volume 2 is released, I'll be there, I'll buy it, and I will love the crap out of it. And that's really it for this week. So, once again, happy birthday to me. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share with all of your friends and family and whatnot. And in the meantime, because I am just kind of delving into this graphic novel world, if you have a graphic novel that you think, oh, Brady really needs to check this out, throw it my way. Let me know, because I do want to check it out. I do want to get more into this whole medium that I've never really experienced. And so let me know your recommendations, and until next week, I don't know what I was going to say there, but we'll see you next week. Review!